Hi, welcome back. In this video, let's walk through the code and see how we can use vectors in C++. So I have opened a website called jdoodle.com. Basically, this website is an online editor. It has a rich support for almost all the programming languages. So I'll click on C++ 14. So this website provided me with a starting template. What I will do is I will just replace IOStream with bit/std/c++.h. Basically, with this I'm just saying the compiler to include all the libraries available in C++ in runtime. This is mostly done to avoid importing each libraries, each header files one by one. For example, if I need to include vectors, or in order to use some math functions, I have to include math.h. If I have to use string function, I have to include string.h. Basically, for using a specific type of data structures, I have to include the corresponding header file, which is a good practice, but especially in computer programming, in competitions, we don't get much time to include each of these header files one by one. It will consume a lot of crucial time during the competition, and we want to focus more on the problem solving instead of wasting time in doing the housekeeping tasks such as these. But again, this way of including bits/std/c++.h might not be recommended when you work in a production code. So let's proceed. Next, I will remove this and then return 0. Now, to use vectors, let's say the first one will be if I want to create a one-dimensional vector of integer. I can do that with the syntax like vector angle within angle brackets, the data type int, and then the variable name, let's say it's vec. If I want to create a one-dimensional vector of integer but with a given size, let's say I define a variable n and I am just taking the size of the input from the user, and then I can declare a one-dimensional vector of size n as follows. It will be vector of int and then vec2 n, the size of the vector, which is n. These two I have just appended it to the variable name vec, just to differentiate between the earlier vec and this one. Next, if I want to again create a one-dimensional vector of a particular size, let's say n, with a constant value, let's say -1, I can do this as follows. I mean, if I want to create a one-dimensional vector of integer of a given size with having a constant value of -1. I can do that with vector of int and vec3 of n comma, and then I give the value of that constant as -1. Lastly, if I want to create a two-dimensional vector of size m cross n, I can do that as follows. Let me put it in a comment saying that two-dimensional vector of integer of size m rows and n columns. So let me create another variable called m, and let's take it from the user m, and then I can create the two-dimensional vector as vector of int. Before continuing further, I just want to highlight that a matrix is nothing but a collection of rows and columns. So in this case, I can think of a matrix as a vector of vectors. What do I mean by that is, let's say I have this matrix 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here number of rows equals 2 and number of columns equals to 3. In other words, I have two vectors, one vector and second vector. One vector which is 1, 2, 3, and then another vector which is 4, 5, 6. So I can define a matrix by creating a vector of another vector of type int, and then I can just say matrix is the variable name. And then just like in case of creating a one-dimensional vector, first we have to create a one-dimensional vector of rows which is of size m. So I'm specifying the m here and then comma. Now here, instead of this constant value, now what happens is for each row there will be another vector of size n. So another vector of int, basically this vector inner data vector of int which is of size n. And this way we can define a matrix as a vector of vectors, a vector of size m, whereas each element of this m-dimensional vector will contain one more n-dimensional vector. So it is it just boils down to the first vector of int of size n, and then the second, and then the third, the fourth, and then like this. The last vector, this will be my mth vector. So this is my first vector, second vector, third row vector, fourth row vector, and then the last will be the mth row vector. So this forms a matrix.